Philly. And so we've been talking all day long. What does it do for Mahomes' legacy? We can get more into Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, the Chiefs dynasty as a whole. But I'm looking at a headline here from Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports. He says the second biggest winner after Philly in the Super Bowl.
Philly's still the first biggest winner?
He's got them number one in his power rankings.
Good.
Tearing off the winners of the Super Bowl. He's got
Philadelphia Eagles
the
won.
winner of the Super Bowl.
Good.
And then he says Tom Brady's legacy is number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, so is Mahomes done? Like, I have a hard time thinking that he's just done playing football, but this was obviously a chance to do something that even Brady had never done. And, all right, the 3-peat is out the window now. But he is 29 years old, and I'm with everybody else. Like, I don't think he's going to play till he's 45. I don't think most of these guys are going to play till they're 45. Like, that's what's so freaking crazy about Tom Brady was that he was winning Super Bowls and winning divisions and stuff at that age and always looked good. Like, that's crazy. So I don't think Mahomes will do that. But last I checked, Brady was 7-3 in the Super Bowl. Also a crazy stat, but 10 Super Bowls.
Never blown out.
Never blown out.
And he was 2-0 head-to-head. I don't know if you've heard this. 2-0 head-to-head against Mahomes in the playoffs, once a Super Bowl.
So all of that, big-time advantage Tom Brady. And you and I both thought it was stupid that it was 2 weeks of people even comparing the two. Well, even if he wins, he's not there yet because Brady played for so long. He was in the NFL for 23 seasons. This was Mahomes' 7th year as a starter. So there's only so much you can really do when you're comparing a 7-year total to a 23-year total. But if you take the first 7 years, it's better. Mahomes' first 7 years are better than Brady's first 7 years. But what is he going to do after that? We shall see. Now, Tom Brady, after losing the undefeated season, right, in 07, he gets hurt. So now he's coming off an ACL. So at that moment in time, he gets hurt. You're like, all right, how's he going to respond to that? So 08, throw it out the window because he's not even there. Comes back in 09 and 10, they lost in the wild card round and they lost in the divisional round. And I'm sure there were some
both at home.
Yeah, and I'm sure there were some then being like, they're done. They're done. Like, they're not going anywhere.
I'm sure in real time I was saying that. Yeah. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
And then
Brady's done. Patriots are done. Dynasty's dead. Yeah.
And not to give everybody a history lesson, but then they go to the Super Bowl again against the Giants and lose again. So at that point, it's like a 5-year window where it's 2 Giants Super Bowl losses, a season-ending injury, and home losses to Joe Flacco and Mark Sanchez. Did that feel like in the moment that was a guy that was going to rip off 4 more Super Bowl wins? No. Probably not. And so Patrick Mahomes has made the conference championship game every year as a starter. He's made 5 Super Bowls. Like, I'm not writing him off, but the chances of him ever having a 3-peat and stuff like that, and then you start to get into like a numbers game. Like, this was one where he really needed to stay way ahead of the pace. Now he's just kind of like at that pace. And what makes Brady really, truly remarkable is just 20-plus years of sustained greatness.
Well, and again, what Mahomes will have to do, whether he makes it till 45 or not, he might not need to. But if he plays another 7 or 8 years, they are going to have to, I think, retool post-Kelce, which could start next year, retool with a new head coach, new coordinator on defense. Like, they're going to have to figure that stuff out, which Brady and Belichick did. And so I think we're at that crossroads now for the Chiefs. And I don't know how Mahomes is going to handle it. I don't know that they will handle it well. But I'm with you. The track that he's on is still equal to Brady. He's got to do it, and he's a million miles away.
Yeah.
And, Keefe, you said this earlier. I agree. We said it was stupid to say Mahomes would be the GOAT if he 3-peated. There were people saying that last week. Stephen A. said that. Orlovsky dabbled in it. I think there were quite a few people. Who was the other one we were playing last? Oh, Pete Prisco, noted Patriots hater. Was like, Mahomes will be the GOAT, greater than Brady if he 3-peats.
No.
He wouldn't have been. Now, he would be really breathing down Brady's neck, but he wouldn't have been. I thought Reid Belichick could change. With a Reid win, I said, talk to me Monday. It's Monday now. Yeah. I don't think you can put Reid ahead of Bill. And it was a rough night for Andy Reid, too. He never adjusted. His team got smoked for a second time in the Super Bowl. It's his 3rd Super Bowl loss. So I think Reid takes some flack there. I don't know how much Kelce takes, to be honest. It was a bad game for him last night.
Well, I think people probably already had their mind made up.
This is kind of what I think.
Better, you had Kelce better, so he's in another Super Bowl. Doesn't do much.
And I don't think last night really swings it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, I had Kelce ahead of Gronk last Super Bowl when he won.
Right.
And so I don't think last night swings it a lot. I think it should stick to Reid quite a bit. But here's what I do believe. Mahomes, Montana, Mahomes, Manning, Mahomes, Elway, like whoever you have in that next group, that is a better debate than Mahomes, Brady right now. Mahomes, Brady is projecting. Those other ones, I think you can line up and look at their resumes and say, this guy or that guy, who had the better career? Both you and I have Mahomes, too. Why are you Mahomes over Montana, Mahomes over Manning?
So I think Mahomes just always getting as far. So 7 years, right? So those other guys have all played a lot longer. But first of all, Mahomes already has more Super Bowls than Peyton Manning. So that probably shouldn't be the be-all, end-all, right? Because so then you'd say, well, Joe Montana has more Super Bowls than
or
Patrick Mahomes.
We'd be higher on Bradshaw than we are historically.
Yeah. But I just think for what he's done in those 7 years is off the chart. So he has the regular season MVPs. He has 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Having been in 5 Super Bowls is more than those other guys. So I just think Mahomes is clearly the next guy down, but he has so many more games to play to really be in the conversation with Tom Brady. To me, he has already surpassed those guys that are sitting there at either 2, 3, or in the case of Montana, 4 Super Bowls. But I just think what Mahomes has been able to do in the 7 years is ridiculous.
Yeah, so I would take him over both of those as well. And you can point to the rings for Montana, but you're right. There were early eliminations for Montana. He was going home.
He's losing in the divisional round.
Wild card weekend, divisional round, things like this. Again, the Niners won without Montana. Like I would hold that against Montana on some level. Like they could win it with Steve Young. That was a wildly deep and talented team. And when it comes to Manning got blown out in Super Bowls, or a Super Bowl. He also lost to the Saints, which wasn't a blowout. But he had 2 losses in that game as well. He had a bunch of head-scratching losses. He was barely over 500 in his career in the postseason. So I would hold those things against Manning. And so you want to take a victory lap, don't compare Brady and Mahomes, fine. But I don't think Mahomes falls so far where his legacy is now less than Manning, less than Montana. But I also don't hold Super Bowl losses against some of these guys the way other people do. I know you don't either. Getting all the way to a Super Bowl should be a feather in your cap. That was an awful display last night. They got blown out, and so it was non-competitive. But
so Mahomes
shouldn't be holding Super Bowl losses against these guys when Montana was losing in the divisional round.
Correct. So because Montana is...
And that's what a lot of Patriots fans were saying about Brady, too, before he caught and passed Montana.
Yeah, right. 16-7 is the Joe Montana playoff record. So 16-7, which is obviously great.
Do you know Manning's? I'll look Manning's up if you want.
It's barely over 500.
I think he's like a game over 500. I'll look at it.
And it was because of the final game, actually, that the Broncos defense carried him to a title, weekend at Bernie style.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got probably 20 losses in the playoffs, I bet. Close to it.
Let me get it for you. Keep going.
But Patrick Mahomes, even with the loss last night, is now 17-4. So he has more wins than Montana and fewer losses than Montana in the postseason. So, yeah, he does have 1 less Super Bowl ring, which I know some will hold against him. But, yeah, what do you have Manning's?
Manning's 14-13. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 one-and-dones.
Yeah.
One and done for Manning.
Yeah.
So, again, that doesn't mean Manning...
14-13.
Doesn't mean Manning sucked. He didn't suck at all. But when we're now comparing the greatest quarterbacks of all time, that's why I would have Manning 4th behind Montana and behind Mahomes. 8 one-and-dones. And a game over 500 in his career in the postseason.
Well, that's also what happened with Montana. So Montana wins his 2nd Super Bowl in 84, and then 1 and done in 85, 1 and done in 86, 1 and done in 87. Right, like rounds that Mahomes doesn't even play in. Right, like he's either got to buy or he's just like whatever. And he's like, and then he wins back-to-back Super Bowls and all that. But no, I mean, but that nobody wants to have like a week-long or month-long debate on who the second best is with anything. Nobody's doing that with like movies, or nobody's doing that with food. Like it's like the best. What's the best? What's the best? So you vault him over these other guys, which is a much better conversation to really have. But it's like, well, if Tom Brady's out here, shouldn't we be talking about that?
Yeah, and I'll say this too. For everybody who said that, Brady had to do it and he did it forever, I think Mahomes is about to reach that point. So let's see if he can do it. But line up their careers right now at age 30, and they are very, very, very similar.
Just a guess.
10 more?
Do you think he plays
40-ish? I feel like every guy plays until their late 30s now. I don't think he plays till 45, but I bet Mahomes can play till he's 40. Yeah. What does it look like? I have no idea.
No. I'm just curious how long he even does it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, probably. He was 29 this year.
Who's retiring at 35 these days? Quarterbacks.
They don't. Aaron Rodgers might be back.
Yeah.
You hear that?
I mean, the Jets don't want him, but he might be back. So all these quarterbacks play into their late 30s.
Yeah,
I'd imagine he does.
That's true.
Let's go to Jeremy in Leominster. Go ahead, Jeremy. Jeremy, hello?
Jeremy, you there?
Sorry, I was pulling you off speaker. Yeah, out here.
Okay.
Hey, watching that game last night, I had a random thought. It seemed like one of those games in college when a Power 5 team plays one of those weaker conferences. So I actually looked up the Georgia-UMass game. UMass, after 3 quarters, was closer to Georgia than the Chiefs were to the Eagles after 3 quarters.
I mean,
Fourth quarter garbage time.
I'm not going to pretend I knew that, but that's
a good stat.
That's how it felt. Like I am shocked. If you asked me before
that was
the
Wiggy
Super
Bowl, by the way, Georgia UMass.
UMass actually had a lead in that game.
Did they?
I think it was 7-0.
But yeah, I mean the Chiefs definitely didn't have that last night. So no, if you asked me going in, somebody blows out the other team, I thought it'd be a Chiefs coronation, Chiefs blowout, and I was very, very wrong.
Yeah,
I did not think for 1 second the Eagles were going to blow out the Chiefs. I thought the Eagles had a chance to win. I didn't pick them, but like it wasn't crazy to tell me the Eagles were going to win. To have the Eagles dominate the Chiefs the way they did, yeah, I didn't see that coming. And in some ways, UMass is more competitive with the Georgias of the world.
How about that?
Hadn't thought about it in those terms.
The Minutemen, right there.
Mike's in the car. Go ahead, Mike.
How you doing? Did you really say that you think Kelce is a better all-time tight end than Rob Gronkowski?
I did, yes.
That's crazy. Kelce doesn't block. Kelce doesn't show up half the time. Gronkowski was a better blocker, a dominant receiver. John Gruden the other day ranked his top 5 tight ends. Gronkowski was number 1.
Oh, wow.
Kelce wasn't even
I miss Gruden's ranks. Mike,
your best
the
argument,
Patriots also won a Super Bowl without Gronk. In 2016, they didn't need Gronk to win. They won it with Martellus Bennett. Is that a knock on Gronk in any way? They didn't miss his blocking, and they won without him.
I'm just going to say, man, you must not know anything about football.
Okay. Well, that sounds like
Mike, listen,
I don't know if Gruden factored that in.
Mike, I'm on your side. Oh, he's gone. I was going to say, Mike, I'm on your side, but your argument's not the strongest. He's like, doesn't block. He blocks. That guy doesn't block. He's a blocker.
No, his blocking was so important. I feel the need to bring this up with Scarnecchia sometimes, too, because people are like, oh, my God, Dante Scarnecchia, no offensive line coach ever like him. And it's like, they won in 2014 without him.
It's like,
so...
But if Kelce blocked more, they would have won more Super Bowls.
I guess.
Like, I don't know. He's been pretty successful.
They did not miss Gronk's blocking one bit when they won in 2016. They didn't miss it at all. Martellus Bennett must have been a whopper of a blocker that year.
Yeah. No, I'm actually of the Gronk. When you hear arguments like that, though, it doesn't really help. It makes me want to jump sides. I think we went over this last week. I think Gronk touchdowns, he is much more of a touchdown maker. Yep. I look at that as even more than just being like a possession catch type of guy. That's what like Edelman and Welker and Troy Brown were for. Gronk would get in the end zone. He is a much more physical, dominant tight end. I thought his high end peak was better. I think Kelce's played so many games now, and to his credit, a lot of it he's more durable than Gronk is. Now, maybe because he plays less physical style or whatever else. But if you're looking at some of the numbers in the postseason, like what Kelce's done, like it's off the chart.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I have Gronk second all time. Like it's not like I think Gronk stinks.
You must not know anything about any football.
It does. You do really want to lean in and say, okay, well, if Gronk was so good, how'd they win it all without him in 2016? How'd they do that? I mean, the Chiefs have not won anything without Kelce. Maybe they will, and then that argument will be moot.
Right.
And then maybe that's going to swing back to Gronk at the end of the day. But right now, they needed Kelce, and a diminished Kelce last night, they weren't able to overcome it. And I think those two correlate. Who do you think took the biggest hit beyond Mahomes last night? Is it Reid?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it would have to be
That's
Reid.
a rough – I mean, did they ever adjust? Did you say this off the air or on the air? I don't remember.
On the air. I was saying at halftime they're not 24-0.
Somebody's going to adjust.
Maybe he's got something up his sleeve here. Yeah. He did not have anything. Maybe like a tuna sandwich. He didn't have much up his sleeve.
That is wild.
I thought they would at least show some life, and they got the ball to start the second half, showed no life.
Nothing.
And then you're like, guys, if you don't do it now, like you're not going to do it. And so Reid, so all those comparisons, I think people are dug in on Gronk and Kelce. I think Mahomes, Brady, it's just so much more time to really get like a full grasp of it.
7-3 is just, it's hard to compare those two.
But Belichick, Reid, I was like, all right, I don't think Reid's got. I didn't think Reid would pass Belichick, in my opinion, with a win yesterday. But he makes the conversation a lot more interesting, and then we see where these seasons go. But rather than a three-peat and a fourth Super Bowl compared to Bill's 6, right? Because that's the other thing, the Brady-Mahomes debate. Brady won without Bill, and the blah blah blah. So with this one, you're like, man, he's getting real close to Bill.
I think
let
so
alone
too.
These regular season wins.
If we wake up with the Chiefs winning their three-peat, it's Reid and Belichick to me would have been a real debate today.
He is knocking on the door,
and now you can't really do it.
No. So that hurt him. That would have been a big swing for Reid.
So I think that sticks with him. I'll say I don't know how much blame to put on Spagnuolo for last night because they clearly did not play well defensively, but then they erased Barkley even more than I thought they were going to win that game. So like, part of me,
we'll just take out Barkley. It's like, well, there's a little bit more.
Right. I mean, I guess you needed to adjust, and I can't like compliment Spagnuolo for the game plan, but they did take away something that we weren't sure they could take away. They completely eliminated Barkley, at least in the run game. Again, he was maybe more effective in the pass game than I'm giving it credit for. But, yeah, I mean, I think that also puts Reid even more under a microscope. Like, Spagnuolo with Barkley did his job. Their defense gave up 1 million points. But,
but I mean, they did throw a pick six in there, and there was some bad field position for
what
the
they have at
defense.
half, 20-something total yards. Mahomes had like 33 passing yards at half.
It's crazy.
That's a reflection on Mahomes, number one.
Yeah.
But secondarily, I think Reid has to take a hit for that for sure. I guess more of this. Ryan in Manchester. Hello, Ryan.
A couple things. First of all, NFL is a copycat league. We all know that. So that kid Mason Graham just got bumped up a few spots. You can dismiss it as much as you want, but people are going to look at what they just did and say, we're going to do that. And if Barmore comes back and they can put that kid next to him, there's some big horses in there. Kelce. Listen, Kelce wasn't throwing anybody out the club. You know what I mean? Like my boy Gronk was. That's a big part. You want to dismiss it because it's not fun for you to watch, but it's a big part of the tight end game there. He's the Henrik Sedin of tight ends, man. Flashy, big numbers, soft.
Okay, he also won
more.
He also won 3 Super Bowls, exactly. And the Sedins didn't win anything, and so it didn't get in the way of. It didn't prevent them from winning. I mean, maybe you could say if you swapped Kelce and Gronk, the Chiefs would have won more. I guess you could make that argument. And I don't know that I agree with it, but I guess you could make that argument. On the draft, what is your takeaway from last night? If you're trying to apply it to the Patriots and team building, let's scale back from the draft. In the offseason, is there anything to apply? You've mentioned the balance now that the Eagles have top to bottom with their roster, even including Jalen Hurts. I think I gravitate towards where the caller was, where it's like building on that D-line. I'm a lot more open to it after watching how dominant they were.
So my thought is if the draft isn't that strong, maybe you still just stay on the board at 4 and take the best player available because, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are a great example of how important offensive and defensive lines are. However, the Patriots have so many needs. Their roster is so bad. The Eagles roster is loaded. Like, they have great players almost everywhere, like every level at both sides of the ball. So on the one hand, you could say, all right, well, you trade down from 4, you get multiple picks, and you get like 2 like linemen. Okay, great. But like if they're not like 5-star type guys, then then what are we talking about?
Let me ask it another way.
Yeah.
You were very hesitant to trade the number 4 pick when we talked about this last week for Myles Garrett. Are you more open to moving the number 4 pick for like a stud now?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Garrett,
yeah.
Parsons.
Yeah.
Would Max Crosby go for the 4th pick? That feels high.
It might be too high, but maybe I would. Now the problem is you can't stop there, right? So you need to one great player isn't going to help the Patriots, right?
There are a few great players away from what the Eagles have.
It's tough for football to do the one great player, even if that one great player is a quarterback, right? Joe Burrow didn't make the playoffs, and Patrick Mahomes was running for his life last night. So you need a little bit of everything, but yeah, to me, it was more discouraging than anything else because you're like, wow, you are really far away. You are really far away from
watching those teams, specifically Philly. You're like, the Patriots are nothing